It's time for Tim's Vinyl Confessions again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking the time. Of all the things you could be clicking on, I'm really glad that you decided to spend a little time listening to me go off about some band or some album or something like that. I don't tend to go off and rant or anything like that. This episode is a little bit different. It's very much a band that I'm still in the process of discovering, but I wanted to do an episode on sort of my progress so far and maybe solicit some opinions. I know there's a lot of you out there very knowledgeable about classic rock in general, but especially 70s, 80s rock. And it's a band that just about, well, not every, but a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to always talked about. And again, I'm very, very new at getting into Thin Lizzy. Now, Thin Lizzy, for most of you, if you know one song by Thin Lizzy, it's The Boys Are Back in Town. And to be honest with you, that's the first thing I heard from them too, but not their version. I'm going to really, really date myself here, but some of you are probably thinking, oh, well, you heard the Bon Jovi version of it. And I did. But that's not the first time I heard The Boys Are Back in Town. And destroy any cred I might have here, but whatever, it's all good. The first time I heard The Boys Are Back in Town was on the show Full House. I'm not even kidding. John Stamos' character, Uncle Jesse, is a bunch of his friends are together. He's playing guitar, and he's singing this song, The Boys Are Back in Town. And I've since watched reruns, and yes, he's singing the Thin Lizzy song. So not long after that, Bon Jovi covered it for the Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell album about artists covering artists that had died from drug or alcohol abuse. Of course, Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy famously basically destroyed himself. He died at 36, way too young. And they did that song. Oh, that's that song. So, but that was when I first became aware of them. And then I started reading about Def Leppard, talking about, you know, what big fans of them they were. Metallica and a host of bands. And the bands that toured with them, like Queen and Rush. So I thought, well, you know, there's something to... There must be more to them than The Boys Are Back in Town, because I remember hearing that song thinking, like the Thin Lizzy version eventually, thinking, yeah, it's okay, but, you know, Phil Lynott has this unique singing style where it's basically, as James Hetfield said, he would just write poetry, and then he would just try to cram it in. So it was like half sung, half spoken. Very unique. So here and there I've picked up a few Thin Lizzy albums, and I'm sure I'll be picking up more. So I'm going to go over what I've got. The few things that I do have, and then maybe at the end I'll put a request out there and see where should I go next. So the earliest thing I have by Thin Lizzy is this cassette called Fighting. This is an old U.S. Mercury cassette of Thin Lizzy's Fighting album. This is from 1975, and actually this album, you've seen it probably with this cover and another cover, another band shot. And this album has some good songs on it, including Rosalie, which is a Bob Seger cover, but they really rock it up. Fighting My Way Back, Suicide's a good song. King's Vengeance, Ballad of a Hard Man. There's good stuff on here. Very, very old cassette. It's got a paper label on it. Doubt it works. Got to get it on record CD to listen to it. And there's a list of other Mercury cassettes available. This must have been a cutout because there's a hole in it. The biggest Thin Lizzy album came out in 1976. It's Jailbreak. The song Jailbreak is fantastic as well. This is a remastered edition, probably remastered in the late 90s. This, of course, contains The Boys Are Back in Town. It's their most successful album in North America. They did, like a lot of bands, they were primarily Irish, but a few British guitarists members have come through as well. But did way better in the UK than they did in North America. They didn't get a chance to tour over here all that much. And what's curious about this album, I'm not really sure what the story is. This is sort of a futuristic. It always kind of reminded me of Kiss Destroyer, which came out the same year. But you see some copies of this, you could see 4 members of Thin Lizzy. And this one, there's only 3. I don't know if there was some... They were kind of a volatile band, too. This is a really, really good album. The song Jailbreak, awesome riff. Warriors is good. And the last song on here, Emerald, I have a new appreciation for. I'd heard it before. But Ace Frehley covered it on his Origins Volume 1 album in 2016, and it was great. Did a fantastic job on it, and it's very faithful to the Thin Lizzy version. So this is on Mercury, or to be exact, Vertigo. That was the band as it was in 1976. They've always had great guitar players pass through. It's got one of those stubborn booklets. So there's okay, so there's the full sort of comic book rendering, and you can see there's 4 members of the band there. And there's a little write-up on the history of the band and the album. Good place. It's a good place to start as any. I don't think it's a case of where it was their most successful album because it doesn't sound like anything else they did. It just happened to have that one big hit single on it. So, tons of albums. I'm skipping all over the place here, but one of their most significant ones, and one that you hear talked about a lot, is their live album from 1978. I mean, the 70s was the era of the double live album, and this is Live and Dangerous. This features songs from, obviously, the previous few albums. And, as is the case, it's kind of a cliche, but sometimes it's cliche because it's true. These versions are superior to the recorded versions because they're just heavier. They're more live sounding, they're more raw sounding. This is a fantastic album, and what I've got here is something I actually found on Record Store Day last year. A Canadian version on Mercury. Now, at this point, for some reason, they split from Mercury in the States and were on Warner Brothers for a series of albums. None of which I have yet. I don't have any U.S. Warner Brothers versions yet. Gatefold album, plenty of pictures, and we'll just show you what one of these records. Well, no, we'll dig them both up here. Love digging into these old records. More pictures here, and the classic Mercury label. Usually regarded as one of the top 70s live albums. Finally, just last year, got a chance to hear it for myself. Still more, more of the same, more pictures inside of here. So, spun that on the turntable, thought, I want to listen to this in the car, so I got it on CD. So here is another remaster from the 90s of Live and Dangerous. And, a lot of that's the gatefold, the way the gatefold turned out. And there's a write-up on here. Both of these write-ups, and maybe most of the remasters, were done by a guy named Stuart Bailey from the British magazine New Musical Express, or the NME. The first thing I got from Thin Lizzy, kind of on a whim, I just looked at a few song titles, said, yeah, I think this is the one to get. The copy I have says 2007. It's called Greatest Hits. This is a unique case. I've never seen another one like this one. And this is a really comprehensive collection because it not only contains Thin Lizzy songs, but it contains solo songs by Phil Lynott, Gary Moore, who's a well-known guitarist in his own right. He's passed away as well. But Gary Moore was in Thin Lizzy for a brief amount of time, but some of his solo stuff features Phil Lynott. There's a lot of back and forth that went on here. But this has just about all the songs, if you knew anything at all about Thin Lizzy. This, among other things, it contains their version of Whiskey in the Jar, which is a traditional Irish song, but a lot of people today know it because of Metallica's version. It also contains some songs that an album that I'm particularly looking forward to hearing all of. The last studio album they did was 1983. It was called Thunder and Lightning, and it had John Sykes on lead guitar, and it was much more of a metal album. Song Thunder and Lightning is exceptionally good. Cold Sweat's another one. Basically, their metal album. And they were never metal, even though in the 70s, they influenced a lot of metal bands. They weren't actually metal themselves, or at least they weren't recorded that way. But Thunder and Lightning kind of crosses that. See that one is officially endorsed. Because there's a ton of Thin Lizzy compilations. So, a lot of pictures inside here, and a good write-up on the group. And this really got me interested in checking out more of their stuff. So, I guess what I'm asking, if there's any Thin Lizzy fans out there, and I'm sure that there must be, watching this, where to next? What should I, where should I go next with Thin Lizzy? What should I be looking for? What albums in particular? I get a lot of feedback on here, and I do appreciate it. So in the comments below, let me know where you think I should go with next in my Thin Lizzy collection, and hopefully I'll do maybe a more expanded version eventually. Thanks for watching Tim's Final Confessions.